Hello guys, today we are going to be talking Season 3 here in Project Cars, and well, there's several things to consider really. What are we going to be doing for Season 3 here? It all comes down to what kind of offers I've been receiving here in the off season, and so far I've gotten several offers, but only from two series. One is the LMP2 series, and another is the LMP1 series. Got 3 offers from that series. The only problem is, while I think both series are pretty cool, the races are very, very long, to say the least, if it's going to be, anything that even resembles being realistic. Obviously, this is a video game, so of course it's not going to be 100% realistic. That's never going to happen, but still, I think it's fun to, when you pick a certain series, it's fun to actually at least aim for at least some sort of realism in that series here, and that's probably one of the reasons that I've only been publishing open wheel racing here so far, because an hour and a half, 2 hours is probably the longest I'm going to be able to go in a session. That is pretty much all I have time for, unfortunately. I also got an offer to re-sign with Auto Rebel here for the Formula A Season 3, so I'm kind of thinking that's the one I'm going to be going with there, but seeing as I really didn't have too much trouble there winning the title in Season 2 in Formula A, I think that we need to lay down a set of ground rules as to what we're going to be doing here, particularly in qualifying, because seeing as all the cars are pretty much even in terms of pace and power, you're not going to be seeing the same usual set of suspects there at the front of the grid every race. It's going to be switching up, and the only real constant that we had here in Season 2 was the fact that I was pretty good at finishing amongst the top 5 or 6 cars there, so it wasn't really that difficult to score points on a consistent basis. We're going to be changing that, and I think one of the ways to do that is that we're going to be setting, like I said, we're going to be setting down some ground rules for qualifying, and one of the rules is going to be, okay, we're going to be doing one lap. One lap, that's it. We've spin off, that's just too bad. We're going to be starting at the back of the grid. We get caught in traffic, well, that's too bad. We're going to be starting in the middle of the grid. And that's basically how we're going to go. That is going to make scoring points on a consistent basis. Taking 6 wins, that's probably not going to be an option like we did in Season 2. So hopefully that's going to even things out a little more, making things hopefully a little more interesting, meaning that we might have like 5 or 6 cars that can actually have a shot at the title there with 3 or 4 races to go. And at the very least, that's one way of approaching it. And if anybody has a better idea or different suggestion as to how we might accomplish a more even playing field there over a long season, I'm really anxious to hear about that. Don't hesitate to leave a comment down the field below there, and we'll basically just take it from there, really. And another thing we need to consider here is how long are the races going to be. What I was doing here in Season 2 was basically shooting for a 1 hour, 10-minute race, kind of depending on which track you're on. That kind of differs. Sometimes it was a 60% race, other times it was a 70% race. I thought that worked out nicely there, but I'm willing to try different formats as long as we don't surpass the 1 minute 15 mark, because like I said earlier, that's probably the most time I have to allocate to a single race at a time here. So longer races are not really an option, unfortunately. I'd love to do longer races, but at this point, this is all I have time for. So there's different things to consider here. If we want to go down to maybe 50% races, I think we should be thinking about altering the tire wear, setting that to ×2 possibly. So we might have cars coming into making 2 pit stops instead of 1. If we stay with the 70% format, the 1 hour, 10-minute races, whatever, maybe we want to do that anyway, setting the tire wear to ×2 and have cars come in and change tires twice a race instead of once a race there. So there's a ton of possibilities here. Obviously, that would be more like the F1 series, but this is Project Cars, this is Formula A, and while these cars might be F1 inspired, they're not F1 cars. So the question is, how close do we want to get to the real thing there, and how close do we want to stay true to whatever the idea might be in Project Cars? What do we want to do about that? I'm kind of open to suggestions here again as to whether or not people might think it might be interesting with more pit stops or less pit stops. What do I know? But just to summarize here, based on the offers that we got for Season 3, we're going to be staying with Auto Rebel here in Formula A, and we are going to be imposing a set of restrictions on our qualifying sessions. They're not really sure what kind of restrictions we're going to be putting in there anyway, but certainly we're going to be having some. And whether or not this is going to be a 70% race format or a 50% race format or something different, I'm not quite sure yet. And how we're going to be approaching the tire wear, that is open to debate as well there. So let me know, guys.